The sun was setting over the busy streets of Manila, turning the sky a warm orange as people hurried home from work, weaving through traffic, vendors, and noisy jeepneys. In the middle of all that chaos stood a young Filipino boy named Liam, holding his old and cracked guitar like it was the most precious thing he owned. His clothes were torn, his slippers barely holding together, and his hair messy from the humid air. But his smile, even though small and tired, held a softness that made people pause for a moment. Every afternoon, he and his little sister Mia would walk long distances selling sampaguita garlands, hoping to earn enough for a small meal. When the evening arrived and the heat finally cooled, Liam would find a spot near a convenience store or under a broken streetlight and begin to sing. His voice wasn't just good, it was soulful, warm, and full of emotion beyond his age. It carried the weight of hardship but also the sweetness of hope. People would slow down, some taking out their phones, others leaving a few coins in a tin can placed beside him. Mia always sat close, hugging her small backpack, listening proudly while tapping her feet to her brother's music. Despite their struggles, despite sleeping on thin cardboard sheets in a crowded shelter, those moments felt peaceful to them. One night, while Liam was singing a soft version of "I Will Always Love You," a foreign tourist passing by stopped immediately. The woman, surprised by the power of his voice coming from such a young boy in torn clothes, raised her phone and began to record. She watched him finish the song with a long, emotional note that made a couple across the street turn their heads. When he stopped, people clapped softly and a few coins dropped into his can. Mia hugged him with pride. The tourist approached them, handed Liam a warm smile, and said, "You have something special, kid." She uploaded the video to social media before leaving. Within 24 hours, the video began spreading quickly. Comments poured in from around the world. Some wrote that his voice made them cry, others said his story touched their hearts, and many were asking who he was. The video gained thousands, then millions of views. Liam had no idea any of this was happening. He still woke up the next morning, washed his face at a public faucet, and prepared his guitar for another long day. Across the ocean in the United States, a producer from America's Got Talent happened to see the video late at night. The voice, the emotion, the sincerity, it was everything the show hoped to find. Within hours, a message was sent to a local organization in Manila that helped street children. The staff tracked down Liam and asked him if he wanted to audition in America. He didn't believe it at first. How could a boy who barely had enough coins for dinner ever dream of performing on one of the biggest stages in the world? But when Mia looked at him with bright eyes full of excitement, he knew he had to try. His life, once limited to the narrow streets of Manila, was about to change in a way he never imagined. The days leading up to the trip felt unreal for Liam. Volunteers helped him gather documents, get a passport, and understand what America's Got Talent really was. Mia stayed close to him, asking questions non-stop. Will there be many people? Will you sing on TV? Will we see snow? Liam didn't have the answers, but the excitement in her voice made him forget the fear growing inside his chest. When they finally arrived at the airport for their flight, Liam froze. He had never seen a place so bright, so clean, so full of noise and people dragging shiny suitcases. The volunteer guiding them walked them through security, helped them sit in their seats, and reassured them that everything would be okay. When the airplane took off, Mia squealed in delight while Liam gripped the armrest. But once the plane steadied, he looked outside. The city became tiny, the ocean opened wide, and the clouds looked like mountains. For the first time, he felt the world was bigger than the streets he used to walk every day. After long hours in the air, they landed in Los Angeles. The moment they stepped outside, Liam felt the cold wind brush against his torn shirt. He felt small in the massive city full of bright screens, tall buildings, and endless cars. AGT staff welcomed them warmly. They were given a hotel room, fresh clothes, hot food, and a chance to rest. But Liam made a surprising request. He didn't want to wear the new clothes for his audition. He wanted to wear the same torn shirt he had on the streets. "It's part of my story," he said softly. The staff understood. That night, however, he couldn't sleep. He stared at the ceiling, thinking of his mother who had passed away, the struggles, the hunger, the songs he sang to keep Mia from crying. He remembered the promise he made to her, "One day, we will have a home." The next morning, they were taken to the AGT studio. Liam's heart thumped loudly as he walked through the backstage hallways. Everywhere he looked, he saw performers warming up, dancers stretching, magicians practicing tricks, singers humming scales. It felt overwhelming. He held Mia's hand tightly as they waited for his turn. A producer kneeled beside him and said gently, "Just be yourself." "That's enough." When his name was finally called, Liam stepped toward the stage entrance. The lights were blinding, the audience loud, but he kept walking. His torn clothes may have looked out of place, but his courage was stronger than ever. He took a deep breath, ready to sing not just for the judges, but for Mia, for his mother, and for every moment he had survived. His journey had only just begun. When Liam stepped onto the America's Got Talent stage for the very first time, every light in the enormous theater felt like it was aimed directly at him. His heart pounded so loudly he thought the microphones might pick it up. The audience stared, whispering quietly among themselves. Some noticed his small frame, the torn shirt, the worn-out slippers. Others simply looked curious, wondering what this little boy from across the world could possibly bring to the stage. Liam swallowed nervously and forced himself to look up. The judges sat behind the desk, their faces serious but interested. Simon leaned forward, his fingers folded, studying the boy who looked far too young and fragile to be holding a microphone. "What's your name?" Simon asked. "Liam, sir," he replied softly. "And why are you here today?" the judge asked. Liam took a deep breath. "I just want to give my sister a better life," he said, glancing at Mia backstage. The room went silent. The judges weren't expecting an answer that honest or that heavy. Even the audience held their breath. The music started, a soft instrumental introduction of "You Raise Me Up." Liam closed his eyes, his fingers shaking slightly around the microphone. Then he took the first breath of the song, and something shifted. His voice rose gently, pure, emotional, full of a depth far beyond his years. The audience instantly fell silent, not wanting to miss a note. As he continued singing, his voice slowly grew stronger, gaining confidence, filling every inch of the massive room. People in the front row pressed their hands to their hearts. A few wiped tears from their eyes. His voice wasn't perfect in a technical sense, but it carried a sincerity that felt almost impossible to describe. It was the kind of voice that made strangers feel connected, made them understand his struggle without saying a word. When he reached the high note of the chorus, holding it longer than anyone expected, the entire audience rose to their feet. The sound of applause grew louder and louder, echoing across the theater. Mia, who had been watching from backstage, covered her mouth with both hands, tears running down her cheeks. Liam was trembling when he finished the final note, breathless and overwhelmed. The audience continued cheering as he stood frozen, unsure what to do. Before the judges could even speak, one of them slammed their hand on the golden buzzer. The explosion of golden confetti filled the air instantly, raining down over Liam. The crowd screamed with excitement. Mia ran onto the stage and wrapped her arms tightly around him. Liam buried his face in her shoulder, unable to believe what was happening. The judge who hit the buzzer stood up and said, "Your voice tells a story this world needs to hear. You deserve this moment." Liam looked out at the audience, his small hands shaking as the confetti sparkled around him like falling stars. For the first time in his life, he felt seen. Not as the poor kid from the streets. Not as the boy with torn clothes. But as someone who had something special to offer. When he walked off stage, staff members congratulated him, patting his shoulders, handing him tissues as he tried to stop crying. The night that began with fear and nervous breathing ended with the most powerful moment he had ever experienced. Liam knew his life had changed forever that day, and he whispered to Mia, "We're getting closer to our dream." Hollywood Week was nothing like Liam expected. The AGT studio was much bigger than during auditions. Hundreds of contestants filled the halls, some laughing, some practicing, some pacing nervously. The pressure was obvious from the moment he stepped inside. Even with the golden buzzer, Liam quickly learned that it didn't guarantee an easy path. It simply meant he didn't have to perform in the early rounds, but the competition only grew harder from there. Every singer he heard sounded incredible. Every group he watched danced with perfect coordination. Every magician looked like they had trained for years. Liam felt small again, like the kid selling flowers in the street, far away from belonging in a place this grand. During the first vocal rehearsal, his voice cracked when he tried to hit a high note. He winced, embarrassed. A couple of contestants looked over, whispering softly. Doubt washed over him. Maybe he wasn't good enough. Maybe the golden buzzer was just luck. He practiced until his throat hurt, repeating lines again and again, trying to match the confidence he felt on audition day. But Hollywood Week had a way of breaking even the strongest performers. One afternoon, after hours of rehearsals, Liam sat alone behind the stage, staring at his hands. Mia walked over and sat beside him. "Are you giving up?" she asked gently. He shook his head, but tears were forming in his eyes. "I'm trying, Mia. But everyone here is so good." She grabbed his hand and squeezed it. "You sing from your heart. That's your power. Don't forget where you came from." Her words helped, but the challenges continued. When he was placed in a group performance, he struggled to learn harmonies, something completely new to him. The other kids seemed familiar with it, but Liam kept singing slightly off. During the rehearsal, the group's timing fell apart, and the judges looked disappointed. Liam felt responsible, his stomach sinking. That night, he lay awake in his hotel bed, wondering if he was just getting lucky so far. The turning point came when a vocal coach found him sitting alone again. The coach knelt in front of him and said, "You don't need to sound like anyone else here. Your voice carries emotion that can't be taught. That's rare. Use it." Liam nodded slowly, letting the words settle into his heart. He realized he didn't need to be perfect. He just needed to be honest. For the next performance, Liam walked onto the stage with quiet determination. The lights warmed his face, and the music began. This time, he focused on telling the story through his voice. He sang as if he were back on the streets, singing for coins, singing for Mia, singing to survive. Every note felt true. Every breath felt meaningful. When he finished, the audience rose instantly, and the judges smiled proudly, their reaction far different from the shaky rehearsals. Backstage, Mia hugged him tightly. Liam felt lighter than he had in days. Hollywood Week was tough, but he had